Other minority groups. The minority group pie is being cut up into smaller and smaller pieces. Lobbyists and special interests represent almost every segment of the American society. Senior citizens, also known as Gray Panthers, have become an activist group, especially since life expectancy has increased tremendously. Society and government have become very sensitive to the needs of the handicapped, and with the realization that young people are the future leaders of the country, Congress has passed civil rights legislation, especially in areas affecting educational policy that has an impact on the youth. Ever since Social Security became an entitlement as part of Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal program, senior citizens have been recognized as a segment of the society that is a responsibility of the government. Today they are one of the fastest growing in numbers. Anytime there is a talk of government cutbacks on Social Security or Medicare, groups such as the American Association of Retired Persons lobby against the cuts. Senior citizens care about the issue of job discrimination. Even with many seniors retiring voluntarily at age 65, a number of complaints regarding employer discrimination against senior citizens have surfaced. Age discrimination acts were passed by Congress in 1967, and in 1975 civil rights law made it illegal for an employer to discriminate against people over 40. In 1978, an amendment to the Age Discrimination in Employment Act raised the compulsory retirement age to 70. However, today there is a growing movement to ban any kind of mandatory retirement age. The issue of health care has also been a major concern of senior citizens. Handicapped Americans make up about 20% of the population. They include people with physical, mental, and emotional disabilities. Many of them have been denied support services. It is only in the last 20 years that government has recognized the needs of this group. The exception to this was the recognition that veteran groups needed aid when they were returned from World War I and World War II. The GI Bill of Rights was a major piece of legislation passed at the conclusion of World War II. In 1975, the Education of All Handicapped Children Act was passed, giving children the right to an education with appropriate services that meet the needs of specific disabilities. The Landmark Act passed in 1991, the Americans with Disabilities Act, required employers, schools, and public buildings to reasonably accommodate the physical needs of handicapped individuals by providing such things as ramps, elevators, and other appropriate facilities. This act also extended into the job market, making it illegal for employers to discriminate against the handicapped. The courts have recognized these acts protecting the right of disabled Americans, yet there are issues that may not be as definitive. Does the ADA protect individuals with chronic diseases? The Supreme Court has imposed limits, but in a decision reached in 2001, the court ruled that a professional golfer, Casey Martin, who had a physical handicap, would be able to use a golf cart during tournament play. Many of the same problems facing senior citizens or the handicapped also face young people who have no significant lobby group. How have their civil rights been taken away? Cases like Hazelwood versus Kamyer in 1988, which gives school administrators the right to censor school-sponsored publications and plays. Bethel School District versus Frazier, 1986, which gives school officials the right to discipline students as a result of a speech that was given by a student running for office containing obscenities. And New Jersey versus TLO, 1985, which gives school officials an almost unlimited right to search a student suspected of violating school rules, weakened the Tinker Doctrine, and severely limited the civil rights of young people. In 1995, the court ruled in Verona versus Acton that random drug testing of student athletes was constitutional. There has been legislation protecting young women and the handicapped. Title IX of the Civil Rights Act prohibited gender discrimination in such areas as sports and the right to enroll in all classes. The Americans with Disabilities Act applied to students attending schools and in fact provided for extensive special education opportunities. State laws also protect young people against child abuse and mandate child support to families who have experienced divorce. Youth today have cried out for protection against violence and drugs in schools and community. They have expressed the need to have employment opportunities after graduation from high school and college, and they received legislation in 1993 that established a national service program, making it easier for high school students to obtain government aid so that they can attend college in return for national service. One of the issues affecting young people, that has become very controversial is adoption practices. Cases involving child support point out the necessity for laws that recognize the needs of the child as well as the natural and adoptive families. Virtually every segment of American society, including Native Americans and groups who have immigrated to the country and have obtained either citizenship or legal alien status, pursues their rights to obtain the American dream. In order to accommodate this goal, their quest for civil rights is ongoing and perhaps even more crucial because their groups have had a very difficult time reaping the benefits of living in this country. Native Americans have an official government agency established as part of the Department of Interior. The Bureau of Indian Affairs has the responsibility of seeing that all legislative benefits are administered to Native Americans who are by law American citizens and have the right to vote whether or not they live on reservations. Native Americans living on reservations have a separate status and are recognized by treaty as possessing the full characteristics of sovereign nations. They are immune from state and federal laws, and they have the right to govern their reservations as they see fit. Other Native Americans living outside the reservation have faced severe poverty and must seek the assistance of the state they live in. Militant leaders such as Russell Means and related groups have pressured the government for specific aid packages regarding health care, educational opportunities, housing, and jobs. One of the significant trends that has boosted the standard of living for Native Americans living on reservations is the establishment of gambling casinos. Even in states that prohibit gambling, Indians by law have the right to build large casinos. The results of these ventures suggest that Native Americans have been able for the first time to develop a prospering economy for their people. Immigrant groups such as Hispanics and Asians have grown in numbers as problems facing their home countries have increased. Cuban and Haitian immigrants have settled in Miami. Puerto Ricans and Jamaicans have made New York City a second home. Mexicans have fled poor economic conditions and have settled in Texas, Arizona, and California. Asians have fled war in Southeast Asia and have left Korea and Japan. Many have become citizens, others have obtained legal status. Unlike native-born Americans, they are having an extremely difficult time obtaining civil rights. There's a tremendous resentment on the part of the American people to those groups, placing an additional burden on America's welfare system. Even though these groups are increasing in numbers, they have yet to achieve complete political equality. There are an increasing number of Hispanic and Asian representatives in Congress. A Congressional Hispanic Caucus has been formed. Representative Henry Gonzalez, a Democrat from Texas, served as the chairman of the powerful House Banking Committee under the Republican takeover in 1994. Former San Antonio Mayor Henry Cisneros served in President Clinton's cabinet as Secretary of Housing. The courts have recognized the problems facing these groups. In the case of Lau versus Nichols in 1974, the Supreme Court ruled that Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 mandates schools to offer English as a second language to non-English speaking students. A corollary language problem facing these groups arises when cities pass legislation making English the official language of the municipality. States like California have passed referenda abolishing bilingual education programs. Just as nativist groups turned against immigrants after the first great influx, 1880s to 1920s, Americans during the 1990s reacted in a strong way against immigrants and illegal aliens. From the efforts of California voters who passed Proposition 187 in 1994, which attempted to deny illegal aliens social services and education, to the attempts of Republicans to deny welfare for illegal immigrants, Americans continue to express concerns about the impact of immigration on the country.